Daydreaming About Dragons, episode 66, season 2. So, the table technique of the week is about your friends. Yes, your friends. Create space for your friend to be awesome. Have your character ask awestruck questions about something your friend's character is great at. Show awe and wonder. Be awesomed. My favorite part of Game of Thrones, I've talked about this before, is when Peter Dinklage looks up in the sky and sees dragons. And he's playing Tyrion. But his performance is so amazing. There was no special effects needed, although the special effects were amazing. And I love watching dragons F shit up. But it's the awe and the wonder that I love. And we can give that to each other. Right? You don't need to be the GM. You can be one of the players, and you can be awestruck by that character's actions when they do something cool. Right? Have the character asking them questions. How did you learn to do that? Where did you learn to do that? Did you know you could do that? Did you know you were gonna win that fight? Did you know you were going to uncover that clue? Did you know you were going to summon that ghost? Ask them questions. Be interested, because wouldn't they be? And if not, who are you playing? Do you want to play someone who's dead inside? Maybe make the decision that they're not so dead. Maybe make a decision that they're coming alive. Maybe make the decision that your character is impressed by your friend's character, and give them an opportunity to talk about how the awesome stuff they just did. Be amazed. Be dazzled. I've got a bunch of examples of this. Strash exemplified it up and down in our Blades in the Dark Bluecoats game, right? I think they both did. Lauren and Strash just went back and forth, being awestruck at each other, at how cool they were. You know, Dravaran was so amazed by this witch investigator that he was with. And he could have made a decision to be creeped out by her. And instead, he was creeped out and amazed, right? Like, he was creeped out, but only so much as that it gave Lauren's character mystique. And Lauren just adored Drav's, strength and ability to get stuff done and know things about the city and his guidance. And they ask each other questions, and they played off each other in such a way. It was beautiful. So check that out. I'll have a link to that show in the show notes. It's textbook. I feel like not the first time, but a recent time in the past years when I saw that happen was in another Blades in the Dark game. And my friend Jay was talking about my friend Pete's character. And my friend Jay was playing this big, scary cutter, right? And he just talked about how terrifying Pete's character was as he jumped off of a boat, went into the ghost field, went through a wall, came out of a ghost field, killed a ship captain with a knife, jumped, went into the ghost field again, went through a wall, came out of the ghost field, and landed back in their boat. And Jay was just like, "You are terrifying." And it was cool. It's cool that Jay made the decision to let that moment into his character's heart and show a bit of fear and awe and wonder, right? It was badass. It was a badass move. And it was cool that Jay was awesomed by it. Be awesomed by each other. I'm not saying it has to be a nonstop backflip high five fest. I'm just saying look out for those opportunities. And if you're not taking those opportunities, interrogate why not. You know, every little thing that you do doesn't have to be like, oh my God, that's amazing. But figure it out and think about how your character would emote that. Maybe it's really understated, right? Maybe it's a nod from your ancient elf to the human warrior when they make a sword cut that's excellent and passable, even though they only live less than 100 years. You know? But you can step out of game. You can be like, oh, my ancient elf nods. Which you should know to anyone else is like a backflip and two thumbs up. Right? If it's understated, then you can step out. You can explain that it's understated, and then you can step out and be like, oh man, that's a lot. That's a freak out for them. So just being awesome by each other and showing it. Love that. Huge part of the game. Huge part of the game. Just the sense of wonder. It's hugely important. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. I love my fantasy. I love my science fiction with that sense of, oh my goodness, look at this. We get to be on the hull of a starship, looking at the edge, on the edge of a nebula, looking in at this seemingly, this ball of gases and pressure, and it's just beautiful. Be awesomed by it. And share that in a way that other people can be awesomed. So that's what I'm about. That's what I'm talking about today. That's the technique. That's what's on my mind. Is how to take the exciting moments and the quiet moments and just let a little awe and wonder in your heart. It's good stuff. It's a lot of fun. Makes the table a better place for everybody. I would love to hear about when you were awesomed by your players. And I've got a hashtag. I've got a hashtag for this sucker. So check that out. If you want to take it up on the Twitters, you can absolutely do that. And it's hashtag I am awesomed by you. All one word. I am awesomed by you. And it will be a link to that will be in the show notes. A link to that hashtag if you want to watch it. And, put it in. Put it in and name a time when a player did something you just thought was so cool. Tag that player in. If that player's not on Twitter, take a screenshot. Send it to them. Let them know that you're awesomed by them. Let's spread it around. Let's get positive. Love this hobby. It's wondrous. I'd love to hear about a time when you were awesomed. Or when you used that technique. Or do you think it can backfire? Is there a time when this isn't the time for this? Let me know that too. I'd love to hear it. All right. It's the time. You're all waiting for it. You know it's coming. The IG. The inspiration goat. Wouldst thou like to game deliciously? Coming here to drop some media inspiration in my lap so that I can talk about it with you. Inspiration goat. What have you got for us today? Good one, Inspiration Goat. So, IG brought me Perdido Street Station, which is written by China Miéville, and it is the first novel of his that was set in this world that he is, amazing fantasy world he's created called Bazlag or Balag, and it's amazing. And the first novel is probably the least approachable and the most difficult and complicated, and I get what the editor must have felt when they got it and thought, like, this is too complicated, I can't cut anything, which is neat. And I think that's a lot of fun. It started, it was in the midst of the start of a new kind of genre being mentioned that they called the new weird. And that's kind of what I want to talk about is weirdness. I had a really weird game last night, and it got me thinking about weirdness and how it piles on and how authors in strange settings slowly lull you in with a mix of what's familiar and then, and then, the weird. And like the way you can like get over these little shocks, right? But by couching them in something familiar. So, for example, Balag has a group, a kind of a species living there, and it's all women with beetles for heads, like scarab beetles, and it's just so damn strange. And you come to learn more about their culture, and one of the point of view characters is of this species. So you get to like learn more about her and her art and how she, they're refugees and they came here on these ships, and no one's really quite sure what they were running from because that has been lost to history, which is cool. It gives them details that we can connect to, right? And the fact that she left a very orthodox culture with a culture with a big orthodoxy gave us something to connect to. So I think that's a good rule for weird, right? You can have something shocking, but give it details that are very human that you can connect to. All right, and we've talked about this a little bit with making big fantasy concepts have a human face, right? Like the Sandman comics. Making big concepts like death, destruction, and delight, and all these, and delirium, and destiny have faces and be a family allows us to understand them better. Because otherwise they're these unknowable immortals. So you can have a shocking weird, but have something that people can attach to, have something that they can understand it. The thing that happened, and then the other thing I want to say is don't pile it on too fast. I feel like I got to a really weird part of our game yesterday where by the climax of the weirdness, the climactic strangeness of it all, a goat was on fire, and it ran out into the darkness into a hungry blob monster who devoured it and took the shape of the goat and was also on fire, but also took the shape of the people it could see, because it was just trying to find form. And the players had to fight that. There was someone communing with their god, right? There was so much happening, but it didn't all happen at once. It was a slow build. It was the players, the build of that almost started, the build of all of that almost started in the first game, right? In the first session, the players found a well that was actually a gate to the Quiet Lands, which is what I call the lands of the dead. They're called the Quiet Lands. And so we established that, right? There are these wells, and they can take you to other worlds, right? From the old Well of Worlds, old D&D trope. Cool, fun. Now they go in a well, and they don't know where it goes to. Dozens of sessions later. And it turns out this well goes to a world that is actually this world 3,000 years in the future, right? Why did I do that? Because I wanted the world to be alien and different, but I also wanted it to be really easy for me to make things up and really easy for me to show things that are strange. So by rooting it in the world that they have, and by just accelerating everything in this weird Jack Vancian 3,000 year timeline, it allows me to build off things that they know about, but make them entirely strange and entirely in a new context, right? So the green devil face from the Tomb of Horrors that they went through was now, the size of a valley. And the sphere of annihilation in the devil face was like this terrible sorceress buzz in the air. That there are these annihilation monks that would throw things into it. And people would come from miles around to have picnics to watch monks throw people and throw things into this annihilation. And that's what became of the tomb that they plundered. And it was cool. I think it showed that the world is strange and things are going to grow in unexpected ways. They also ran into one of the player characters, 3,000 years later. And he had like a blue, he had, you know, the tattoo on his neck that he had gotten from messing with a lich had grown. And his head was a blue flaming skull. And he was still kind of the same guy, but he kind of wasn't. And it just made everything a little bit like as soon as you just build the strange slowly. So they're in the 3,000 years in the future. Cool. Where did the goat come from in that the fiery goat, right? Well, how did that happen? We welcomed a new player to the game. So he had that he was a former soldier who now tends a herd. That was the character he randomly generated. So I started, as the game started, I just started asking him questions about his herd. Hey, what's your herd like? You know, you're in this strange, barren 3,000 year in the future world. It's alien. Things are weird. You know, it doesn't feel right. The air doesn't feel right. The sun feels like it's the wrong size. The stars aren't in the right spots. How are you dealing with this? What's your herd like? And he said, you know, I think the herd is really like losing their herd mentality. They're fighting each other. They're biting each other. I think one of them tried to bite me and broke my staff. So he was making this stuff up. And I was like, yeah, bring it. Bring it, bring it. Tell me about your herd. Tell me about why you're not a herdsman anymore and you're going to become a treasure keeper, you know, a treasure hunter. Why? So then we get these weird goats out in the hills who are losing their herd mentality and are suddenly like nocturnal pack hunters because they're just so out of whack. Love it. So that happens. The goat charges one of the players while they're on watch, and they get thrown. The player said, "I want to just grab it by the horns and judo throw it, use its own momentum against it." I'm all about in-game judo. Love it. Love it. So we rolled. They did it, but there was a complication. The complication is you threw the goat, but you threw it into a fire, and now it's on fire. Oh, no. Now there's a goat comet in the middle of camp. And we already had established that there was like some kind of blob entity out in the darkness. And so the goat ran right into the blob entity when it was let go. And it just was one thing after another. And it just comes from, you know, hey, what do you do now? What does that look like? Tell me about your past. Just asking little questions, getting cool answers, incorporating the answers into what's next. And that was it. Slow build to real weirdness. And it did, you know, it just came from, this is a gate to 3,000 years later. You know, the world has started to move on and started to fall apart. Things are not as you remember them in this world. What does that look like? And it's good stuff. The weird was built, what I'm saying is the weird was built brick by brick together, right? We didn't start off with, there's a flaming goat creature screaming because it's in pain. We didn't start there. We all built it together so we could see the weird shape of this place together. And so it's weird, and we can revel in the fact that it's wondrous and maybe even vaguely ridiculous and strange, but it's easy to remember because we saw it happen and we built it together, right? Not that I didn't have ideas. I wasn't just asking questions and the players were just making it up and we're just riffing off each other. You know, there's technique to it, I think. And it's asking questions of the players and like asking questions that they're not making the setting, but they're telling me about their character's place in that setting. They're telling me things that they can know while still, you know, being immersed. And there we are. And it's just little questions, you know. Hey, there's this detail on your sheet. Tell me about it. Hey, it says that you worship this god. What's the god like? What's worship like? What does it teach you? And people just come up with cool stuff. Because it's fun to come up with cool stuff. And then you build off of it. I think that's an important thing. You have to ask questions, but then not just be like, oh, okay, ho-hum, and then, you know, move on. Because then why make anything up? No. You ask questions and then you use it. You use it because it's inspirational and it's cool. And then you get your own weird. So that's what I'm thinking about today. Weirdness, building weirdness with friends, slowly building up your own scarab-headed women and their culture. Make it relatable, because, you know, the weirder it is, the more you got to cling to. You can't just start with, in Perdido Street Station, there was this character, the Weaver, who speaks in these weird, creepy sing-song rhymes, and clearly comes from like the back, the back door of reality, and they weave reality. And so the Weaver likes to come to our reality and change the path of destiny, so that, you know, the skeins, this tapestry of the world takes pretty shapes. But you can't start with that necessarily. You gotta build up to it. Gotta build up to the weird. Anyway, I'd love to hear about the weirdness in your games. Drop me a line, and we'll navigate the weird together. What's the weirdest thing that's happened? How did it happen? What's the weirdest starting place you've started? You know, what's the weirdest campaign place? I vividly remember my buddy Rob picking up the role-playing game Jorun, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. But he was very excited. You know, citizenship. And like, that's an interesting, tangible thing. I think I wasn't developmentally ready for that game when I saw it, because I see it years later and I'm kind of interested in it. But anyway, alien worlds. You know, tell me about yours. Tell me about what's the strangest world you've been in. What's the strangest world you've built with your players? What's the strangest situation you found them in? How did it come about? I'd love to hear about it. Drop me a line. All right, let's do the outro. Ready? Thank you for listening to Daydreaming About Dragons. If you'd like to support the show, please drop me a line. Let me know what you think. Let me know what's going on at your game table. Let me know if you have any questions, if you want me to dig deeper into a topic, if you would like to talk about something that I talked about that's happened at your table, maybe in a different way, maybe from a different angle, and you just want to add to the dialogue. I'd love to hear from you. You can email me at judd.karlman. You can tweet at me at inspirationgoat, all one word. Lovely. You could go to YouTube. There's YouTube. I'll put a link to the YouTube videos. Daydreaming About Dragons has a playlist on YouTube, so you can go there. You can leave a comment under a YouTube video. Whatever way you'd like to communicate is fine with me. There's also a way to use the Anchor app to send me messages. So that's an easy way to get me an MP3. You have to record it 1 minute at a time, but if you need to take a couple minutes, go ahead and do it. Record an MP3 and send it to me. Send me a link to your blog about how you handled this topic. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to add to the Wednesday, midweek, Tuesday reply shows. So hit me up. The other way you can support the show is by going to iTunes and leaving a review. It's really helpful. So let people know what they're getting into when they hit play. That'd be wonderful. And I've got a list of charities in the show notes. So check it out and please support them. Because now more than ever, I think is a time to show support for Black Lives Matter. And that's it for this week. We will be back next week. And the shows are going to start coming out on Thursdays. And it was wonderful to talk to you. I hope your gaming is going well. I hope your autumn is shaping up and you're ready to move past summer. I think I am. I love autumn. It's my favorite. So here we go. I'll talk to you soon.